are back with you on the CNC Auto Show. And if you smell a burning oil smell, you just may have burning oil.
Fair enough.
It may be dripping from the engine. More commonly, if you're smelling it, though, it's kind of like you mentioned to an earlier caller, is that it's most commonly comes from the valve cover gaskets, because that means it's leaking on something hot.
Right.
And usually that would be valve cover gaskets leaking on an exhaust manifold. Easy thing to check. A technician can do it with it in the air very easily.
Right. All right, and we're going to be going back to Brett. He had a issue with his cooling system on his Civic.
He did. Hey, Brett, on that Civic, we were talking about the radiator cap a little earlier, and I was going to mention that the radiator cap's job is to hold about 11 or 12. Some cars it's 14, other 15, but it holds pressure on the system, and that pressure increases the boiling point. When it does not hold that pressure, then you would get the water would actually boil when it gets above the 212.
Yeah.
But then also it would create a gurgling noise, because you would have water when the water expands, it would go into the coolant jug.
Right.
But also you would get low in coolant, because when the water contracts and cools down, it would pull air in instead of coolant.
Right.
So that's more explaining a cap. Now, I'm not positive that's what's wrong with your vehicle.
Brett, can you do me a favor?
Yes, sir.
Can you go ahead and tell Aaron it's a new cap?
You're not going to do that to me, are you? Don't do it, Brett.
I bought a new cap, and I haven't installed it yet, because
there you go.
that cap actually is barely a year old on that vehicle.
Okay. Well, of course, we're hoping that would take care of it.
Radiator.
Now, Brett, John Ryan threw me under the bus, so I'm going to go ahead and do it to him.
All right, do it.
During the break, John Ryan told me something about this.
What did I say?
About your vehicle.
It probably has a blown head gasket. Well, I didn't really want to come out and say it like that, Brett. But let me tell you some of the things that we do to test those. Now, no doubt, I'm going to mention some equipment that you would have and some that you may not. A chemical block test would of course, tell a technician, including yourself, what the outcome is if it does have a blown head gasket. It's a little device you put above the radiator, and it actually pulls in some of the vapors, some of the steam vapors, and it's trying to detect hydrocarbons, which are, of course, exhaust gases in the cooling system. If there's exhaust gases in the cooling system, then, of course, it indicates that the head gasket's blown. But another easy way that we've just in experience with working on that particular engine we've done is actually connecting a coolant pressure tester to the neck of the radiator, and don't pump it up at all. Just simply crank the vehicle up. And those, when they blow, typically they can pump that system up very, very quickly. I would say, within 5 minutes of running, it'll build up 20, 25 pounds of pressure. And, of course, that's where you can see that, obviously combustion gases are getting into the coolant chamber. Another way is kind of a little bit opposite of that test. You remove all 4 spark plugs and put the coolant pressure tester on there, and then pump the coolant pressure tester up. Take a flashlight. Of course, typically a LED one works best because it's a true white light, and then shine down the spark plug wells. And sometimes you can actually see the cylinder floating. Normally it's number 2. I don't know exactly the logic behind it, but normally the second cylinder, they kind of breach right there at the number 2 and 3, and that's where the coolant comes from. If you don't see anything after that, of course, you can do this with caution, of course, but you can put a piece of just notebook paper over, say, 2 of the holes, spin the vehicle over, and you'll see, coolant on the paper if that happens, and then do the same thing with cylinder 3 and 4. Really hope the radiator cap takes care of it for you, because believe it or not, that's very common. Like Aaron mentioned during the break, he was telling us of a vehicle he had similar symptoms, and that took care of it.
Yeah.
So of course, let's hope for that being the cheaper option.
Yeah, well, since I've already spent $1,200 having a timing belt and a head job.
Well, I did want to mention one other thing, and this is just kind of an advice tip type thing. If it is a blown head gasket, don't think that the repair was done incorrectly. The repair could have been done perfect, but however, those engines aren't exactly the best candidate to get a head gasket, simply because it's an aluminum block, aluminum head. You can machine the head, you can have it all reworked, you can put a beautiful gasket on there, but the deck of the deck of the cylinder block can still be warped.
And of course, you still got the possibility of a cracked head.
Cracked head, cracked block. I mean,
Yeah,
they're,
there's
this,
other cracks in other areas that can do the
Right.
same thing.
typically on those engines, if they're very low mileage, I would say under 80, somewhere under 100,000 miles, it's a 50-50 candidate. But short, after that, unfortunately, it's not a very good one to try
Yeah,
and repair.
I've got like 350,000 miles on this motor.
Right. Only other option I have for you, and it's just a temporary, just last shot in the dark. They do make some of the chemicals that are like what is it? Not liquid ice. What is it? Blue Devil.
Yeah, a lot of different ones.
Now, again, I've personally never used that. It's just, again, one last thing you could
But
try
I mean,
before
but before you do the radiator cap, if that don't do it, then have the pressure system tested. You may even decide to invest in a tester since you kind of enjoy working on vehicles.
Right.
But pressure test the cooling system. But then if that don't do it, then have the block test run because you may have combustion gases getting into the cooling system. Hopefully it's not that. We hope that you call back next week and say
We actually have our fingers
did the
crossed.
trick. we'll,
I hear you, dude.
we'll be pulling for you,
1500
Brett.
is better than 1,500.
That's right.
All right.
All right, guys. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Brett.
Appreciate everything. We probably let's go ahead and take the next caller.
Yeah,
and
let's
then
just
we
go
may
ahead
need
and
to
let
put him on
Marvin
hold.
know that we'll probably put him on hold through the break.
Hey, Marvin, welcome to the CNC Auto Show. What can we help with?
Hey, Aaron. How are you doing this morning?
Doing very nicely.
I have a 95 Grand Marquis that is less than 80,000 miles.
Uh-huh.
And when I first started up, the engine seems to race, or it does race, and that doesn't seem right to me. But I've had mechanics tell me that that's normal in this Grand Marquis. Is that true, or is there something I need to do about that?
Well, that is going to be the teaser that we will lay out there because when we return from this break, we will determine whether it's normal
Yeah.
or whether it's not normal.
Just hook us up to the OBD2 plug.
So we'll give the answer to that. Do you mind holding on till after the break? All right. Thank you, Marvin. And we'll be right back with the CNC Auto Show just after these messages.